about to play some $3, $6 horse here on full tilt. And I'm waiting to post my blind. It'll be Omaha. And I'm sitting with 200, so hopefully we can turn that into more than 200. And there's a guy named BJ Cloutier here, which is pretty funny. So whoever that is, if you're watching this video, I like your handle. Horse is an interesting game because in a game like this is a fairly low stakes game, so I'm going to be playing very, very tight. I'm going to try to play really fundamentally sound. And in some of the bigger games, you're opened up to a lot more. You can play less fundamentally sound. So in this situation, even though I'm getting a really big price on my hand, the 8-8 deuce 9 really plays terribly. And even if you flop a set of 8s in a game like Omaha high-low, very often someone will have a low and either have half the pot or have you free rolled. And this is interesting. Here I've turned an 8 if I had played the hand, so let's see what would have happened. Right now I have a live deuce and 3/8 if I had played the hand. So my low would have been deuce 4, 5, 6, 8, and my high would have been 3/8. BJ Cloutier likes to type in all capital letters. So here I would have gotten half the pot, but nonetheless I still feel like that was a good fold. The hand like this guy's limped in the cutoff. I like raising this hand. We have an ace-3 for low, we have a nut flush draw, we have an ace-king for high. This is actually, if he had raised, it would have been a good spot. This is a really, really good flop. We flop top 2 and the second nut low draw. Now we have the second nut low, still top 2. Hopefully we scoop here. He might have something like, he also had the second nut low, so we got 3/4 of the pot. And when you get 3/4 of the pot, it means that we both had the same low. So the pot is divided into 2 halves in this particular pot, the high and the low. So if there's $200 in the pot, just for an example, they would divide the pot into 2 halves. I would be allotted 1/2 because I won the high. And then I would be allotted half of the other half because I win half of the low because I have the same low. So I would get 150 out of that pot. Which is a good result. It's the second best result. You can scoop, or you could get 3/4. Or you could chop, or you can get scooped. I have a feeling BJ Cloutier is going to be scooping me a lot. So this is an interesting hand. If it's raised here, I'm going to fold. We have an ace-queen 9-5 double suited. Man, this is a bad hand. A hand like this is interesting because in a higher stakes game, I would raise with a hand like this if I'm going to play it because I want to get other hands out. I'm going to call here because I think people are playing a lot of really bad hands, and I'm hoping I can count on playing well post-flop that I can compensate for this fairly marginal holding. And here, in a game like Limit Hold'em with the gut shot and like the power of ace-queen, I would probably call in Omaha, always fold in this particular spot. But if I wasn't double suited there, I probably wouldn't have played. I don't know. Ace-5, Queen-9 is a really super marginal hand that's plays best heads up. That's the interesting thing about the hand. So if that guy had raised, sometimes I would consider re-raising because it's really not that bad a spot against one opponent. But against multiple opponents, someone's really likely to have like an ace-deuce or an ace-3 or a deuce-3. So in this spot, this guy made the nut flush and an ace-5 low, and this guy had this is an interesting hand. I'm just going to fold this. I think a lot of beginning Omaha high-low players who possibly come from Hold'em see the 2 kings. I'll show you guys after the hand. Playing pretty tight. This hand, this king, king, 8, 9 hand, in a game like Pot Limit Omaha or Omaha High, I would play in a later position. I would play it sometimes with really tight players in the blind, or blind to blind. I would play it against one hand, but the hand really doesn't play well because we don't have a low draw, and kings are really never scooping the pot. You know, very rarely kings will scoop the pot. So you really need to flop a set. There's only 2 kings left, and in Omaha, even if you flop a set of kings, your hand can still be vulnerable. So it's really just not a good hand. Omaha high low, stud high, and limit hold'em are my 3 favorite games. Stud 8 or better, I like. It tends to be one of my weaker games. I think I just get very confused in that game sometimes. And Raz is, it's not a very interesting game, and I don't really know the nuances of it, so it's just, don't really enjoy it. This is an interesting hand. I like these type of hands because a lot of times when you win the pot with this hand, you're going to scoop, which is good. So I'll call here out of the blinds. And that's a really bad flop, so we're just going to check and fold. With this last hand we had the 10 jack queen king. It is the type of hand that can scoop, but I wouldn't 3-bet it because it still doesn't play that well, and a lot of times when you 3-bet it, you commit yourself to calling down in a very marginal spot where the board might, you might flop 1 pair, and because all the money out there you have to call down. Also, it's not that good a hand. There's many flops that you just can't even continue. Like if the board came 3-5-6 or 3-5-7, deuce 5-6, whatever, you can't even go on with the hand. So I don't really like 3-betting hands where I might have to just check fold on the flop. Here we have a super marginal hand, but we're getting like 15 to 1 or something, so we just call out of the small blind. Hope the board comes ace-3-4 or flop a full house or something, and here we're just going to fold bottom pair. We've got 1 hand left of Omaha, and then after that we're going to be moving on to the Raz. In Raz, the best hand is ace-deuce-3-4-5. It's a low ball game, and a lot of people don't like it. I'm not crazy about it, but it's still a good game. It's still a limit poker game, and there are some good opportunities to bluff in Raz, which could potentially be interesting. Here's a hand that's pretty bad. If it's folded to me on the button, I'm just going to fold. In Omaha 8 or better is not a game like No Limit where on the button you can try to steal or play aggressively, because in Omaha 8 or better, when you have bad starting hands, for the most part, it's just going to get you in a lot of trouble. And in No Limit, you can usually compensate for that because you can bet whatever you want. Whereas in Omaha, you can only bet $3 or $6 in this game, so it's going to really be tough to bluff anyone out. And the nature of the game, it's hard to bluff anyway because there's so many possibilities. Here we have a good hand to start out the Raz. We have the ace-5-6. An ace is a bad card for us, so it's good that card is out. It makes more cards that we need more live, meaning we want cards we need to be live. What kind of sucks about this is that the 4 was out, I think 2 8s might have been out, and a 7. All cards that we could use. But with that said, we have an ace-5-6, which is an excellent starting hand. And now we really have everybody in a lot of trouble. So hopefully he calls with something like maybe ace-4-7 or ace-4-8 and is like a massive, massive underdog. He didn't call, which we're kind of upset about, but we weren't going to slow play the hand. It was an automatic bet. So we have a good hand here. We have 5-deuce-4. Also, look at all these 4s that are out. It's very rare that you see this, but all of these are good cards for us because they free up more cards that we need. He's going to complete here. I'm going to call. This guy limped in with a 3. And that was a bad street for us. We're going to call 1 bet here. Just because on now we paired the 5, so we're going to fold. There was enough money in there to compensate calling with the draw to the 9 and trying to hit something like an ace or a 3 or a 6. Now this guy let out. We paired our 5. We're drawing to a 9. He could very well have us beat. It's an interesting spot because, you know, like I said, Raz is not my best game, and I think I could really quite possibly call here. In fact, I might call because all the 4s are dead, and I have 2 5s. So he really has to have. No, I'm not going to call. But you know, if he has something like Ace 7 or Ace 5, I'm in a lot of trouble. But to me, it looks like he probably paired. Probably has something like 6 7. But even against that hand, I'm in bad shape, so I'm going to fold. But it's good to know, you know, that it's unlikely that he had a low made already. But I was just in bad enough shape that I'll fold. I will limp in. I actually learned a lot about limping from watching some really good Raz players like Ted Forrest and Huck Seed and David Oppenheim. Those guys are great Raz players, and they'll limp in sometimes with really big hands. They'll limp in with really bad hands, and it's really hard to put them on a hand. And Raz is a pretty, you know, all the poker games, deception is good, but Raz is a good game to check behind a lot of times with a big draw. Like if you have ace, deuce, 3, 4, sometimes to not raise. You don't want to always tell everyone what you have, but usually it's good to raise. So you have the 3, 6, 9. Not going to play it. That 9 is looming as a bad card. You know, playing limit too, it's pretty easy to just click buttons a lot of times and just gamble. But we're going to try to play our best here. This is an interesting hand. BJ Cloutier is he has the worst possible hand you could have in Raz on 6th Street, and man, really both of them. Supposing this guy had like the deuce 3 7 king on 5th Street, BJ Cloutier had the king. I don't even know what's going on here. For me, sometimes when I have the king, queen, jack, I just fold, even if I have the 2 good ones in the hold, because the best possible hand he could make is a jack, assuming that he catches 2 good cards. He still can only make a jack. Here, though, his opponent has like the deuce 3, king 7, so if he catches any card that doesn't pair him, he's going to be drawing to a better hand than a jack, and also probably have a better hand made. Even if BJ made the queen on 6th Street, he would still be in like an underdog. So I don't really play Raz too much, but I would advocate when you have 3 paint cards on 5th Street to just fold. And as you can see, BJ Cloutier said, "I hate this game," so he also doesn't probably play Raz too much, or if he does, it's not one of his best games. I'm going to raise here. We got re-raised by the deuce. We're going to call. Bad street for us. We're calling. There's 17 in there. He bet 3. We're going to try to catch a good one, which we did. He could have a 9 low made. He could not. I'm going to call. You know, I was in a steal position, and then he re-raised, so he could have known that. So this is an interesting hand. Here we made an 8. I'm going to raise him here for value. I think he could be leading out with a 9. I think he could really have nothing. Actually, I may just call here, because if he has nothing, it's hard for him to pay it off anyway. I'm going to go ahead and raise it. I think he has a 9. I'm hoping he has a 9. If we get 3-bet here, it really, really sucks. But, you know, there's a chance, too, that he's playing some sort of goofy hand like 4-10 in the hole. And see, he actually made a better 8. He made an 8-5. So he did have a 9, but he improved. So raising it there cost us 1 bet. In a tougher game or in a game with people I know, I might know that if I raise there on the end, number one, he wouldn't lead out with a 9 in that spot. I don't want to say that this guy isn't a good player, but a lot of times a good player wouldn't lead out there with a 9, so it would be a bad spot to raise. Because I had a queen. If I had had a 10 instead of a queen, it's very hard for me to pay off with a queen. Although I might have, but if I had had like a 10 up or a 9 up, whatever, he would have bet. Now the game is stud. I would have bet for value. But in this spot, I was just hoping that he was playing some sort of strange hand, and Maybe he paired up. Maybe he had a 10 and was like kind of bluffing and then was just going to call. And we improved to a hand that was better on board, so we just raised it. Not really sure if it's right or wrong, very close. Here we're playing stud and we have even though we have 9-10 suited in the hole, which is a pretty good, decent hand in hold'em, in stud it doesn't correlate with the 3 of clubs here, so we're just going to fold. In this spot, we have 6s with a 7, a 10 raised, an 8 called, and there's a 6 gone. So we're going to fold. To improve our hand, it's going to be very difficult. Also, a hand like that, I'd much prefer a 7-up with 2 6s in the hole. But if a 6 wasn't out, because that way if we hit a 6, it's very deceptive. Here, if we hit a 6, everybody sees it. This doesn't really make sense to me. Lucky man called with a 6 of diamonds and just let out when he hit an ace of hearts. So I guess he could be saying that he has the ace of diamonds in the hole. He could have something like ace 10 of diamonds in the hole. But now he's betting again into this 8 jack 3 of clubs board. So even if this guy only has 1 club, he's a favorite over him, let alone the pretty real possibility that he could have 2. So Lucky man could have a big hand here, but I'm just very confused as to what he has or what he's representing. And now he checks when the best possible card has come for him. Now he bets on the end. Really hard to know what he had. I think Lucky Man was still playing Raz. That's what happened. Lucky Man, which is really big to remember, by the way. When you're playing horse, you have to pay attention when the game changes. Lucky Man was definitely playing Raz, which is unfortunate for him because he had a huge hand in Raz. But, so I see. So he checked it on 6th Street when he had a 9 and AL4 could have made an 8. Unfortunately for Lucky Man, they're playing stud high. So it's big to pay attention to the game changes. And this guy had trips on the end and bet for value against the ace 10 high, which called him. So pay attention when the game switches. I've done that before. This is interesting. We're playing stud high. I have the ace deuce 5, so it's good to remember that we're not playing Raz or stud 8 or better. Like, unfortunately, Lucky Man, who hopefully took the hint. This is not a good hand in stud high. We're just going to fold. But in Raz, you know, one thing, it's usually pretty easy to figure out because the low hand acts first in Raz, whereas the high hand acts first in stud. So Lucky Man should have figured it out, but it happens. Now, he just checked aces. I guess, you know, he could have like a flush draw. In this spot, you should just bet those aces. I mean, now he's betting. And if Steve only has kings, he's probably going to fold. This guy's in the tank. What he's thinking there probably is that, I don't know, I'm not sure what he was thinking there. All right. Even though we have the high card, we have 2 bad ones in the hole. I'm just going to fold. Playing stud here, so you know there's people really try to play deceptively and sneakily. But as you can see, when the 2 aces are showing, it's not the right time for the for deception because everyone can see that. So you have the aces, you should just bet. I mean, I like to double bet. I like to double bet always, because when you double bet in stud, when you only have the 1 pair, and you get called, sometimes it can be very marginal. Sometimes you're even going to fold. But I've played in games with weaker players where they'll double bet only when they have trips and make a single bet when they don't, which you can kind of pick up on, and you should always, I think, double bet unless. People have made the argument if you have quads, you should always check to the river, but I just double bet and try to get paid off. So that's stud round. We really didn't have 1 playable hand. So we're just going to keep folding.